La Rosa de Matanzas, the Rosa Matanzas, Chapter 1. Hernando Gomez squinted as he studied the narrow path just beyond the palm trees. The tropical sun illuminated the roadway, making it dangerous for those seeking to remain hidden, those like Gomez. Common sense told him to stick to the bush, but time was of the essence. He and his men were far beyond their territory and had most likely been detected, so it was essential that they accomplish their task in earnest. He removed his straw hat, then wiped the sweat from his forehead before turning to look into the stern face of his companion. The man's tan complexion contrasted with Gomez's umber hue. Both men were dressed similar, but the other man's mannerism revealed his true origins. He was Fredonian. "What do you think?" the man said in stilted Spanish. "I don't think it's wise to take the trail, senor," Hernando said. "We haven't encountered anyone else for 3 days," the man replied. "I think it's safe to say we're the only ones in the area." Hernando frowned. "We will stay off the trail." The man sucked his teeth. "I don't think... Pardon me, senor. You hired me because of my expertise," Hernando said. "If I say we stay in the bush, we stay in the bush. That is, unless you have decided to hire someone else." The man studied Hernando for a moment before answering. "We'll do as you say," he answered. Hernando and the man worked their way deeper into the bush. The more time he spent with these foreigners, the less he liked them. It didn't matter that they were Fredonians or that they supplied his men with guns and provisions. They had no business in Cuba. But then again, who was he to complain? He was a bandit playing at being a rebel, a man whose loyalty was for sale to the highest bidder. The anemic revolt that plagued the eastern half of Cuba, known as the Oriente, was not his concern. It was a rich man's war. Wealthy plantation owners attempting to shrug off the imperial yoke of New Spain for their own benefit. People like him would not profit from it. They would still answer and serve to those who they serve now. It was then he remembered why he helped the Fredonians. They promised a freedom where all would prosper. He would be able to give up his nefarious ways, open up a shop in Havana, and maybe even get married. The quiet was shattered by a shrill cry of a startled macaw. "Get down!" Hernando shouted. Gatling gun fire drowned out the hapless bird, bullets ripping through the trees. Hernando and the Fredonian crawled toward the others as urgent voices mingled through rapid gunfire. "Alto! Alto!" The ground vibrated as trees snapped behind them. Hernando took a quick look and grimaced. 2 Diablos crashed through the thicket, their exposed drivers searching for the bandits with telescopic goggles. The metal tracks crushed the palmettos and small pines in their paths as the mechanical behemoths spewed thick steam clouds from the exhaust pipes rising from the rear of the vehicles. Hernando's men were already fleeing when Hernando and the Fredonian reached them. The other Fredonians crouched behind cover, their faces stern. Bulky leather bags were strapped to their backs, the contents unknown. Each carried a shotgun and a machete. "I don't understand," the Fredonian shouted. "How did they know?" "We can discuss that later, senor," Hernando said. "Now we must go." "Down!" one of the Fredonians yelled. Hernando dove to the ground as another round of bullets shredded the surrounding vegetation. The shooting paused long enough for Hernando and the Fredonian to scramble back to their feet and hide behind a thick pine. "I have a mission," the Fredonian said, his face resolved. "We're not going anywhere." "You can stay and fight those things if you like," Hernando said. "I was paid to guide you. I wasn't paid to fight for you." The firing ceased, replaced by cursing and shouting. The Fredonian looked at Hernando, then to the Diablos. A thick stand of pines and palms blocked their path. The Fredonian grinned like a lucky gambler. "We'll go," he said, but not before saying goodbye. "Boys?" The Fredonians took off the mysterious backpacks and opened them. They extracted metal tubes which they quickly assembled. The third man took off his backpack and opened it, revealing 4 large bullet-shaped objects which he carefully handled. The other men lifted the assembled tubes to their shoulders. Hernando noticed the sight on the right side of the tubes. The Diablos continued to struggle with the brush, their automatic guns silent. "Do you have a good shot?" the Fredonian said to the tube-bearing men. Both nodded. "Good. Load them up, Travis. Let's see what these Diablos can handle." Travis inserted the large bullet-like objects into the tubes, patting each man on the shoulder when done. The Fredonian and Travis hurried away from the tube bearers, then covered their ears. Hernando did the same. The men jerked as a plume of smoke shot from behind them before their tubes. A sound like an oncoming train filled the thicket. Moments later, both Diablos exploded, each one careening in different directions. The tube-bearing Fredonians looked at the other man and gave him thumbs up. The Fredonian grinned. "Now we go," he said. The Fredonians packed their weapons, then fled in the direction of Hernando's men. Hernando hesitated, watching the sinister vehicles burn and spew black smoke. A smile came to his face. Maybe these Fredonians were useful after all. The ebony-hued man in a tailored white linen suit sat in the open-air cabana, twirling his cigar between his long fingers. He took out his pocket watch, frowning as he checked the time. His man was late, which wasn't like him. It was possible that his mission had been compromised as he lay dead in some unknown place, but the man in the suit had to be sure. He'd wait another 15 minutes, then be on his way. John Scoble didn't normally take on field assignments. As head of the Fredonian Dispatch, the department responsible for Fredonian security and intelligence, he reported directly to Vice President Tubman, was the final say for any and all operations. His field days should have been long behind him, but some operations were important enough for his personal attention. The Cuban operations fell into that category. To those in Havana, he was the Fredonian tobacco merchant, waiting to meet a local farmer to discuss his current crop. His purpose was far more serious. The man entered the cabana as he stood up. The look on his face told him everything he needed to know. "That bad?" John asked. The man put out a chair from the small table and slumped into it. "Yes," he answered. "I think we got closer this time, but they were waiting." A traitor within the ranks? A waiter came to the table, tall and pale-skinned, with black hair plastered to his head with pomade and sweat. "Welcome, senor. What would you like?" "A mojito," the man replied. The waiter nodded and hurried away. "Most likely," the man continued, "the resistance is disorganized. On the one hand, you have the plantation owners fighting for more control of the island and higher political status. On the other hand, you have the workers fighting for freedom and representation. Neither trust the other, so there's little hope for unification." John chewed his cigar. "And meanwhile, New Spain continues its plans. What about the merchandise? The only bright spot." It performed very well. The waiter returned with the man's drink. "Gracias," he said. "De nada," the waiter replied. The man took a long swig, then wiped his mouth with his sleeve. "There is one thing, though," he said. "Apparently it hasn't always been this way. 10 years ago, the rebels were united. They were on the verge of defeating New Spain before their alliance collapsed." John leaned closer to the man. "What happened?" "There was a meeting planned for the final operation. Somehow it was discovered. Most of the leaders were either killed or captured. A few escaped. Some said they fled to South America, possibly Brazil. Soon afterwards, the plantation owners accepted New Spain's surrender terms. Those who escaped, do you know who they are?" The man nodded. He reached into his shirt pocket and extracted a folded piece of paper. John took it and opened it. There were 3 names on the list, one name underlined and circled. "2 of them are beyond our reach," the man said. "Any questions about them would raise suspicions. The one whose name is circled is another matter." "Paulina de Rosa," John said, reading the name aloud. "Who is she?" "She's one of the organizers of the First Revolutionary Coalition," the man said. "It's believed she was the person that brought the planters to the conflict." "Is she alive or dead?" "Alive." John folded the paper, then put it in his pocket. "Any idea where she's hiding?" The man smiled as he finished his mojito. "Fredonia." La Rosa de Matanzas. Get it today. MV Media. Take care. Peace.